what we've seen so far with this government, are you impressed with the manner in which the Buhari government has performed in the area of security?
Obviously, I mean, I commend and we thank God. It's been a good week, or the past 10 days for President Buhari, both in terms of this news we've just got, and of course the way he has changed his focus on the anti-graft war. First, I must also say to commend those who are behind the Bring Our Girls Back, because the pressure they've mounted on the government and all of us has meant that we have not forgotten these girls. And that's why, otherwise, it would have been business as usual to have forgotten these girls. But I commend all those who have been fighting hard that the Bring Our Girls Back campaign. I commend them, and I think the work they've done is beginning to show the result. And of course, one has to commend those who are responsible for the operations to negotiate whatever way, whatever way that has been done. I commend that they should carry on in the same ways to get more of the girls out.
Being a former military head of state and now a democratically elected president, when we wonder, there are a lot of pressure that he met on the ground. The issue of the Niger Delta, insecurity in the Niger Delta and the attacks by the militants there. In the southeast, agitations from IPOB. In the northeast is Boko Haram insurgency. But in the face of it all, do you think that the president has composed himself and his cabinet and is the chief of staff, chief security chiefs, to handle the security challenges so far in the last 1 year or so?
I think as to dealing with the immediate response and dealing with in other words, dealing with the challenges immediately before him, he has been up to the task. First of all, he dealt with the corruption in the military, which has
he has done that.
No. The corruption which prevented the military from being as effective as they would have been by what you see, the way the generals were arrested, and many of them were made to return the loot, what they've done. And this is why I was surprised when someone was speaking in some days ago here that the president hasn't treated the generals as he's treating the judges. Contrary. In fact, you remember the case where Admiral Alamusun's house was invaded to the point where they saw money stocked away in trade. So President Buhari has been very unique in turning against even his own class, both in the military and any level, in fighting this war against corruption. He needs to be commended, especially for a man who could easily play the usual, cover up things and just enjoy his time. But is focused on this corruption, and because the corruption has been so bad that it in itself is one of the causes of the national security problems we're having. If one looks back, one of the causes of Boko Haram was that Mohammed Yusuf and his people, when they got close to government in Borno, they found that the government was so corrupt, and they found that the corruption of the government was not consistent with their spiritual religious belief. So, and that was one of the reasons that they started their actions against those who they think were bad eggs in government in Borno until it went out of hand. What am I saying? Corruption it becomes institutionalized corruption in Nigeria. It's become so bad that in itself is one of the causes of our insecurity.
We heard that negotiations are partly part of how these girls are returned. Intelligence in the military, give us a benefit of your knowledge and experience in the military, and the fact that when negotiation and swap and a whole lot of these issues, what are the best practices worldwide?
I think the best practice is that what goes on behind the scene is never made public.
So there could have been a swap.
They could have. It's never made
public. Could have been a prisoner swap. But the government has said there wasn't.
No.
But could the Boko Haram sect have released those girls without a swap?
I don't want to go into the details of that because I want to go by the usual practice. The usual practice is that whatever government do to release those girls, we have to just commend the government. I think the story about how they were released usually we'll hear much later. What the government has done now, at least the government has given hope to the parents of these Chibok girls. And I think we commend the president, commend all the international agencies, the Red Cross and co, who have played a part to this release.
How dangerous is a swap?
How dangerous is a swap?
If you're releasing Boko Haram members back into the public, yes, for the Chibok girls, how dangerous could that be?
I think it depends on what you mean. Is it
I'm just saying if
you have to weigh the benefits against the fact that we are now beginning to see these girls being released, and it is one of the things that had been affected the credibility of this government. So it was good that all I would say, we commend the government to have released this girls.
All right, we'll take a moment. And when we return, more on the Buhari government's activities on security and on the anti-graft war. The former military officer here will tell us about the DSS and perhaps if they went out of line in the raid on the judges. Join us again.
We can confirm that 21 of these girls were released safely to us by 5:30 this morning, Thursday the 13th of October. And they were flown to Kaduna from the location of their release. We can confirm that the DSS pursued the lead in collaboration with a friendly European country and a renowned international humanitarian organization. The DSS was supported by the Army and the Air Force in this project. As soon as necessary confidence was built on both sides, the parties agreed on the date and the location of the release of 21 girls. Please note that this is not a swap. It is a release, the product of painstaking negotiations and trust on both sides. We see this as a credible first step in the eventual release of all the Chibok girls in captivity. It is also a major step in confidence building between us as a government and the Boko Haram leadership on the issue of the Chibok girls.